Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to the latest of a series of webinars that's being arranged by a group called OER Sweden. We've now, I think this is about the 12th or 13th webinar in a long series we've been doing for the last 2 years. And yeah, it's good to see so many people, so many old friends and new friends involved here. And the theme of today's webinar is, well, arranging effective webinars. And well, this is a little bit of a challenge for us because, of course, when you arrange a webinar about being effective in webinars, you have to be just that. So we hope we will be what we say. My name's Alistair Creelman. I work at Linnaeus University in Kalmar in the southeast of Sweden, and I'm the moderator of this session. I'll spend a few minutes just now just about the background, and then I'll present my colleagues, and we'll get started with the actual webinar. The reason behind this webinar is really that we've been arranging a lot of webinars over this. The four of us have been responsible for a lot of webinars, especially using this tool, Adobe Connect. And we thought it would be interesting to summarize some of our experience of yeah, good points, bad points, useful tips, and put it into a webinar. But one thing that's important to realize, we are not trying to say that we haven't learned all the lessons. We're still learning. What we're doing here is presenting some of our experiences, and I think some really concrete, useful tips. But we really want to hear as well from you. Some of you have arranged webinars, many webinars in some cases. What's your experience? Let's gather, let's pool our experience together. This is not the model. This is one of many models. There are many ways of running them. So we want to make it clear we're opening up for a discussion here. We're focusing on webinars with large audiences like this one. We're now 115 participants and rising, and we have 244 registered participants. That means that it's very difficult to have a sort of intensive discussion, and that doesn't matter whether you're in a physical room or in a webinar, actually. If you've got 100 people in a lecture hall, you don't have a very interactive session there either. But it's possible both there and in a virtual meeting to have quite a lot of interactivity, and we want to look at that aspect of webinars. How much interactivity, how much participation can you have in a large-scale webinar? So that's really where we're coming from. This is being recorded, so everything you write in the chat is going to be in the recording. All the links that we show are clickable, both here and in the recording, and any links you put into the chat will also be clickable in the recording. So be aware of that. In the chat, you're welcome to give ideas, tips, ask questions, provide links. If you've got links to interesting extra material, just put it in there. Many people like to go back to the recording afterwards and have a look through all the links so that it's a sort of resource that you can come back to again and again. We're not going to get through everything in the hour we've got, but after we wrap up around the back of 4 o'clock, we're going to keep the chat open, and it'll be a sort of after chat. We'll turn the recording off, and we'll hang around, or some of us will hang around, and we can just talk away for at least half an hour afterwards. So you're welcome to stay for a little more detailed chat. Okay? Yep. As I said earlier, we've got a wide experience of different of webinars. We've already harvested quite a lot of views about what you want to learn. So now maybe we should introduce who we all are and get on with it. Could we move over, Marcus?
Sure.
Right now the chat window is rather small, but we hope that we will provide some input. When the input is over, the chat window will get bigger, and then we want everybody to chat. So this is being organized by a number of organizations, the logos of which you can see below. I won't go through all of them, but there are several projects and organizations behind this, and we thank them for their support. I have already introduced myself. There's where I am right now. I work with online learning, IT and learning and so on. I am involved in a lot of projects, international and national. Those are links to me. But now my colleagues.
Yeah, I'm David. I'm based in Austria and very glad to be part of this team today. I'm a university lecturer, adult educator, and a consultant for social media and European funded projects. And you can click the links and find more about me.
Hi. I'm sorry. One of the problems having too many people who can simultaneously change slides. My name is Markus Schneider. I'm a project manager at Karlstad University in the midst of Sweden. And I'm also working as a product manager for the SUNET Connect service. And SUNET is the National Research and Educational Network for Sweden. You can find details about me on the links below. And I was also the project leader for the www.oersverige.se project that Alistair has been mentioning. Toril.
Hi, I am Toril Slotto, located in Oslo with Flexible Education Norway. You will see the link over there. I'm fond of blogging and writing in the different magazines, and I will also see today if there could be something to write about. And I have made a little ski jump in the down here. Education for all, make it flexible.
Okay, that's who we are. Let's move on then. And we're going to have a number, I'm going to sort of introduce a number of questions that we've decided to look more deeply into. And we'll take one question at a time, and one of my colleagues will give their interpretation or their answer to that. However, at the same time, we want to know what you think, so that they'll give a quick answer, and then we'll open up for the chat and let's have your views and so on. So the first question really about webinars is why webinars? What's good about them? When can you use them? When is it better than using face-to-face? Can it be better than using face-to-face? David.
A very good question, and I will try some answers. Yeah, this is a plain telephone, one-to-one communication, and in this setting here we can speak all together if we would grant microphone rights to the crowd. This is television. Only one person can speak to a very large audience, and now we have as well an audience, but anybody could speak. And this is somehow a social atmosphere in front of a television set. And I think with webinars we can have this kind of socializing, but in a different way. Yeah, via webinar we can participate from wherever we are. Yeah, so the whole planet can do so. There's maybe one problem. I've noticed that, for example, Sudan is under an embargo from the United States, and Adobe Connect cannot be used there officially, but there are ways to move around and make it possible really from everywhere to get access to such an online room. A webinar or online conference can avoid travel. Yeah, you all know this, and I think you don't have. I don't like this situation to be in such a cabin. It is a green way to meet, yeah, because we reduce our carbon footprint, and this is why this webinar is as well somehow part of another online conference about climate-friendly climate research. I will give you details about this conference later on, because this conference continues tonight, and we will present other online conference systems, and as well what will be, I hope, great fun, Second Life, yeah, the 3D world. Some further aspects. You can have short and frequent meetings. You get high attention because it's focused on a specific time. It's really flexible because you can even use your smartphone to access a webinar. You can combine it with asynchronous tools. We will have a look later on at Facebook. And what is nice as well is you can combine it with on-site meetings. So this is a more or less a conference, a normal conference setting. But this guy has been invited to talk to the audience, and the audience can as well talk to him. So on-site conference can be a blended conference. And this even goes a step further because many people are being brought into the on-site room. But with this setting, you need some more hardware. So this is a video mixer, but I think this can be really nice as well. And maybe one further remark: what I do as well are really international conferences, like we have this one right now. I really invite international speakers. And even for, let's say, for example, political issues, I'm responsible for the live interactive broadcast of a Salzburg City Council, so everybody can follow live and can comment. Yeah, so that's so far from my side.
Anything to add, Torhild or Marcus, about sort of why webinars? Is there anything you'd like to mention before we get the views from the participants?
I think this is very interesting, and I have nothing to add.
In that case, what do you think? We will try and be a little bit quiet. Let's have the chat, Marcus, and let's open that up a little bit more. What are the advantages of webinars? Can you see any other advantages?
Oh, sorry.
The other one. Yeah, Maria, is a web meeting and a webinar the same thing? Yes, I suppose it is. I mean, the trouble in this business is there are sometimes many different terms for the same thing. And there are many tools. I forgot to mention, we use Adobe Connect, but there are many other tools that can be used that are quite similar. I think most clearly it's like, in many cases, it's the only way that this crowd of people could ever meet, isn't it? We would never all be able to agree that just this group of people would all converge on one geographical place at exactly the same time to have this discussion. So in a way, this meeting is completely impossible any other way.
I would like to add here, Alistair, that it's quite amazing that you could pull all these distributed knowledge out of people, which you wouldn't be able to do in a real live meeting, because then you would have to wait for each other to speak up. So this chat functionality is really making it very efficient to get everybody's input on a specific topic, as we see right now.
Some very interesting idea. There are a lot of points coming up here. I was thinking you might be wondering, maybe some of you wonder why you can't speak or show your video. Maybe you'll come back to that, Marcus, or do we say no?
Yeah, I think I could answer to the guest 3 question, if it's possible to use Connect through mobile phones in a couple of minutes then, if you could wait until then.
Yeah.
So we'll take it under the tech session,
Yeah. I think it's in many ways, as you'll come back to, I think when you have a mass audience, or you have a lot of participants, then it's almost impractical to let everybody speak because the settings can be completely different. It can cause a lot of problems. And it does mean that we have a sort of a few people who are able to speak, but the chat is important. But loads of reasons here for Eric saying it's better than face-to-face. the next best thing, and that's an interesting point. I don't think it's the next best. I think it's sometimes better. It's different, and we maybe shouldn't compare one thing with another. They're different.
Yeah, I think you should.
One or the other. It's not a conflict here. It's sort of sometimes you can meet physically, and that's great. But when you can't, this is great.
Yeah, I think it really depends on what your objective is with the meeting then, and how it could be done. I mean, it's quite easy to record this kind of meeting and to get all the input. You could easily do a questionnaire online and record it as well and have the statistics afterwards. That's quite difficult things to do in a large group meeting in real life, isn't it?
Mm. And I think many people, yeah.
But David was answering something with 30 with video and microphone. What was that?
Yeah, there was a question about how many people can be together with video and microphone. And I have experience that it works quite well with up to 30. Maybe we could try after the webinar with everyone switching on the camera until the system crashes.
Yeah, breaks down. There should be. I should mention this one thing that was in the how-tos section to the left, and that is from far away participants, and for those who are on a slower internet connection, then you could in your browser or in the add-in just pause the video from David, Alistair, Toril and me by hovering over the picture, and then the pause symbol would appear, and if you pause it you will save some bandwidth, and if you've got some audio problems then this hopefully will disappear. Yeah, I think that was a question then for Maria as well then.
I think recording is not really an issue, because if your webinar is interactive and you really answer the questions, yeah, and talk and discuss, it's such a value, and it's more value than just watching a recording.
Yeah, that I would agree, David. And that's the real benefit of the webinars. And even if you're talking to, we've got a lot of lecturers who are doing webinars and they're doing pre-recorded lectures, and that's the specific difference between a pre-recorded lecture and a webinar. That as long as you just do your lecture, it won't give you the value added. So you would have to be aware of that.
Yeah,
there is
true.
some sort of dialogue and interactivity involved.
Yes, spot the deliberate error. I was trying to be very good by turning my microphone off when other people are speaking, but forgot to turn it on, and so spent 30 seconds saying something that nobody heard. However, I will get back to the track now. We're agreed that there are many advantages of using this type of forum, and that there is that you can do things here that you cannot do physically face to face. However, what sort of let's look more at the pedagogical requirements of a webinar, the structure. How do you work with layout? How do you get this feeling of interaction? And I'd like to ask Torhild to elaborate on that point.
Yes, I will share some of my experiences, and looking forward to getting comments from all of you. First, a couple of words about the structure. Of course, a webinar must be very well structured. It must be even more structured than a face-to-face meeting. Why? Yes, because it is such a small and compressed format. Therefore, it needs more structure, I would say, than a face-to-face meeting. And then it comes how to dance, how to make the choreography. You have seen now today we started up with kind of lobby layout. When you entered and you had polls, and then after some time it was changed over to presentation, and now we are on the more like chat layout. I know it's not easy always to handle these different layouts. I know sometimes we make a mess, so in a way I think it's better to keep it simple and better to go on with the same structure all the way than messing it up. But of course, when we have experts like Marcus and David with us, it's no problem. It was mentioned by Alistair that now we will open up for chat, and that's a good thing. When we are chatting, we make very good space for the chat. When somebody is presenting something, we make a good space for the slides or for the whiteboard. So we adjust according to what's the focus at the moment. Then what about the length of the webinar? How long should it last? I remember when we started, we made the long webinars of 2-3 hours. But after 10 years of this webinar experiences, I have a very simple recommendation actually. 1 hour. That's the optimal time period for a webinar, in my opinion. Why such a short, only 1 hour? Yes, because webinar is very intensive. It takes your full attention, and at least me, I think most of us, we lose our concentration after 1 hour or maybe even after 45 minutes. If it is a small group, maybe you would like to have a double webinar that you have for your first 45 minutes, then make a break and another 45 minutes. That's of course an option. But for kind of massive webinars like today, I think 1 hour is good. If we go further to aim of the webinar, we must make clear before we announce the webinar, what's the aim? Why are we having this webinar? Is it just a discussion webinar where we want to enlighten a certain issue and get the different point of views? Or is it maybe a particular webinar to collect the different point of views in the matter of a project or a report we are going to make, kind of this thing? It could also be the aim of the webinar to listen to an expert who is telling us, talking to us about a particular topic, and we want to spend most of the time to listen to the expert's presentation. Could be any aim. We must just make it clear that what's the aim. Just also one point on the housekeeping of the webinar. It could easily be messed up with the technology, and it's good to have the different roles. It's good if there is one administrator taking care, looking after the platform and the technicalities. Another has the role of being a chair, like Alistair today. And it's also good if the webinar has more than 20 participants, that there is a person dedicated for following what's going on in the chat, taking care of all the questions popping up and passing them over to the presenter, for example. And sometimes we also have a person dedicated for welcoming people as they enter into the webinar. Today it was done by Alistair, but it could also be a person writing in the chat and welcome to the people. Okay, just a little thing about pedagogical requirements. It's of course very good that when we start a webinar, everybody should introduce themselves. And I think it was very nice today that everybody gives some comment when they entered, so that we could look their names and welcome them and feel like we are together. I very much believe that when, for example, in a face-to-face meeting, when we are all allowed to present ourselves by a few words, we feel much more involved, and it's much better chance that we will take part in the meeting and speak again if we have spoken once. And I think it is the same with the webinar. When we get the chance to introduce ourselves by one way or the other, simple way or by more detailed way, it's more likely that we will be active in the seminar. So that's a very good idea to introduce ourselves.
We're getting an awful lot of comments on in the chat here.
Very good. Actually, yeah.
We comment on some of the chat questions a little bit. There's one of my favorite issues as well is the multitasking problem, which has been mentioned by a few people here. And there is the question of what do you do, because at the moment the chat is going like mad, and for many people like the fact that we're talking and the chat is going and we've got parallel discussions going at the same time. And some people think that's inspiring and exciting, and other people find it extremely distracting and stressful. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I know we have been reflecting upon it. I do not know actually, because it's as you say, Alistair, some people like it this way and some people like it that way. So I haven't any clear opinion if it should be chat going on or not. This time we have chosen to have a big chat window, and I think it's nice that the chat's going on and people can decide themselves what I like to do.
I think what we're experiencing here is that we did it differently. For when David had his presentation, the presentation was on the biggest screen and it was in focus, and we actually received not so many questions in the chat as when we had Toril's presentation, which invited the chat to take place right in the beginning, and that was the intention of the thing then, to just show you and see what actually happens when we're trying different layouts. We are inviting even without not saying that you would have to adapt to the layout that we choose.
Yeah, it's a little bit of push here, because we've got the hands on the button and we can control. So, I mean, we have tried this idea of making the chat window very small, so that by reinforcing the fact that now it's listening time and concentration, and then make the chat window large to say this is time for interaction. So, I mean, it depends really. I'm divided on this issue. I think it's very interesting to see. One tactic that many people have is either listen to the presentations and ignore the chat and read the chat later in the recording, or the other way around.
But we have got it illustrated that a big chat window generates more activity.
Yeah, if you.
That's something. That's a good lesson.
Yeah. It depends what you want, and make it clear. I think it's important to tell people what you're doing, as we're trying to do here, and say, right, the chat window is small now because, and the chat window, when it becomes large, then off you go. But then once the chat is going, it's like a fire, and going back to the small window can be a problem because the chat is still going like a fire. And once we've lit the fire, it's very difficult to stop it. But that's participation for you. I'd like to move on now, actually, and talk a little bit, look a little bit at technical requirements of an effective webinar. And we're still getting some great stuff from the participants here. I think we all need to go back and read all this later, and we all will, I think, because there's a load of good stuff here. Thank you very much. We're sharing experiences. Marcus, technical aspects, what to do and not to do.
Yeah, I would like to share you just how I sit in this place and what my role is. My role used to be that I'm sort of the guy behind the scene, and this is what my desktop looks like. You see, this is my main monitor, and here is a second screen, and I would also have a second computer actually detached to the same meeting room, just in case something messes up and I could just easily take over. It also suffices for me to see that what the participants' view of the meeting is. So this helps me to see whether I have a poll or how the layout works, because it doesn't scale up so that you can really tell unless you wouldn't have it on the screen so that you see it. There was a question about mobiles. Just for the sake of it today, I would have this iPad device where I am connected to the meeting, and I will also have my iPhone. And they behave a bit differently. I know there were some guys from the Uppsala Learning Lab who say, well, just mention the latency issues, and we get back to that in a moment. So this was just to give you a view behind the scenes of how we're actually conducting these kind of webinars. I'm changing layout now to give you a third way of how you could do this kind of interaction. So if you would please fill in this poll that I've prepared, and it's about whether you are on a PC, Mac, Linux, tablet, smartphone, or something else. And if it's something else, so please write it in the chat. It would be very interesting to me to know. And we could make guesses in the meantime here. And the basic idea behind is that of course, that Adobe Connect serves all these kind of platforms because they're mobile apps, and there are flash-based participating in the meeting. And if you would be a presenter or a host of the meeting, you would like to have the add-in in order to do some screen sharing, which I'm going to try now in a moment. And this is not surprising. You would have a majority of people connecting from the PC, and you would have about a quarter of the audience on the Mac, one person on the Linux, and nobody on the tablet because I got thrown out. No, it's not because I've gone thrown out, because I haven't answered this. All right. What I do now is I change to the next poll question, and the next poll question would be about how you are connected to this meeting today to the internet. Are you on a wired connection with either the speed of a local area network or DSL? Are you on a wireless connection, or are you on a mobile connection? And that would be on 3G or 4G or LTE, as you would say. Okay. And the reason behind that, because we're asking this, is that what we really try to bring to the people who want to organize webinars is that there has to be a sort of a broadband awareness, of a bandwidth awareness in what you're doing. So the bottom line of all this is that if you're doing things in Connect, the more people you are in Connect, and this question has been up in the chat previously as well, the less things that are bandwidth demanding you could do. And obviously the two things that demand the most of the bandwidth would be video and audio, and that's kind of the reason behind why we're not allowing everybody to share their audio, and also because of other reasons. I could just give you one, if I do a little screen sharing now. the screen should be shown to you from my my other monitor. And what you need to do when webinars would be a compromise, like we would not use the LAN, but we would use the DSL cable settings. That means that you actually allocate to the different streams that you would have in Connect, video and audio streams, somewhat less bandwidth than you would do in the best quality. And that is not something that is done automatically, but you have to choose it like that. So this is one of the secret tips behind that. If you conduct webinars with large number of people and you don't know where the others are and what kind of connection they're sitting, choose a somewhat lower quality. Also, you would have here the quality settings for the video. If you reduce it to something like medium or low, you will get a slower update of the video. But that is also important, and you have to judge by yourselves what still is interesting for you then. A final word about the audio is that when you have very far away scenarios that people are connecting from the other side of the world, we have made our best experience with using the Speaks codec. That is another codec that is the way the audio is condensed to go through the internet. And here settings like Speaks codecs and modem would be the best quality for you. Some more words about behind the scenes then. As you see on this monitor, that there is something that we don't show to you when you are a participant in this meeting. But for us who are the presenters or the host, we have this nice little area that we call the presenters only area. So for our webinar purposes, we would show these presenters only area to those who are in the panel, and to have the agenda of today's meeting you can find here, so that we have the time plan, and also if we could make some silent comments to each other, and are you going to take on these comments or are you going to answer these questions, you would have it here. And finally, to the right here is what Toril mentioned, that you have lots of capabilities in Connect to give the webinar a predefined layout to what you want to do, and it's quite a flexible system that could be used, and that would be interesting for you to know of. The other thing from our experiences when we are doing these webinars is what could be demonstrated right away here if we just use another kind of layout here, is that when we do the preparations, the last thing you always would have to do is to do the audio checks. And one of the top secrets is that you would ask the presenters that make the audio presentations to just take their microphone and do the scratch test. That's nothing that is documented anywhere, but it's very efficient to do this, because then you are sure that this is the microphone you use if the others would hear it. And the other thing is that you would need to do some reference leveling of the audio, because that is not done by Connect. So if I'd ask David, if you turn on your microphone and say something, just hello.
Hello, hello.
And Alistair, could you say something?
Hello.
And Toril, could you say something?
Hi, Marcus.
All right. And to me, it sounds that the level of audio is quite like it's leveled out, and that means that it'll be a better experience for you then. And of course, I would have to ask Alistair if I sound as much with as much volume as he does. So that will be nice to remember the scratch test and also the leveling that you need to do in advance. Alistair, at this point you should advise me to stop talking. And I also am hoping that you have watched the chat, because I have not been doing it. So if there were any specific questions during my 5 minutes here.
Well, I mean, as you can see, there's a lot of where we're talking about. I mean, Audio Setup Wizard, of course, is the essential little tool under Meeting Audio Setup Wizard that everyone goes through that. I think really one of the most common problems in these webinars and in all communication this way is that people, as you said, Marcus, don't realize that this microphone is not the one they're speaking into. Because very many computers love to use their internal microphone, and web cameras love to use the internal microphone. And you really sometimes have to be very strict with your computer and go in and stop the web camera's internal microphone, because that causes a lot of echo and terrible background noise.
One of the limitations I forgot to mention was that in this case, as this webinar and one of the first webinars we had, there is an awful lot of text that's coming into the chat message. Everybody should be aware of that. The chat only takes a certain amount of characters, and then it truncates the beginning. So it's not an easy way to just take the whole chat and afterwards have it as a documentation. So you need to look through the recording in order to get the beginning of the chat.
Yeah, and Lars and Niels are saying get attendees to kill Skype in session. I mean, really, it's also a golden rule that all of us involved in this have turned off our email, our Twitter, our Skype, and everything else that's going to make strange noises during the session. And for your own sake, definitely get rid of Skype, because it can disturb the quality.
It's not only Skype, it's basically all the rest of your programs that are software that you have on, because it takes CPU activity, and having 4 different videos here inside, it takes quite a lot of your CPU. So
yes.
that's...
Suzanne says Spotify also. Catherine says her Mac doesn't have anywhere to plug in the microphone. Is that which one is that? Is that that must be is that the very slimline Mac?
Could be.
Yeah. Okay. I think what we were talking about is interactivity, and David has got a little bit of input for that. Keep the comments going. There's lots happening here, but time is running along. So how do you get audience involvement? And now you're going to get a chance with David to do some interactivity in other ways that you might not have expected. Change the scene, and off you go, David.
Yeah, let us have a look at some interactive experiments. So I have to look for the first one. This is a location map. So I would like everybody to indicate his or her location. You can drag and drop the lilac pin to your present location, and we will see where everybody comes from. Oh, and it's going fast. I'm fascinated. And it is fun. Still, we are very European-centered. Okay, we have South Africa. We have... no.
And we have Iceland.
Iceland, wow. And we've got...
and even Longyearbyen.
Yeah, some Arctic island. I can... No, that was a mistake.
That was a mistake.
Oh, no, this seems to be fun. So let's make a screenshot. Okay, great. So the next experiment will be to extend our meeting to go to Google Docs or Google Drive, and to see if we can work on a shared document together. Maybe you are already a frequent user of Google Docs, and what is fine with it, you can really work simultaneously on one document. So I will open a new document, and I will test webinar. So this is our new document, and I will share this with you. And right now it's private, but anyone with a link should be able to edit. I save it, it's done, and I will shorten the link, and I will copy the link into the chat. And so please try to access this document and try to gather some ideas how this could be used in a webinar. Yeah, just don't, you can write some keywords or whatever you like, but I would be specifically interested on how do you think this could be used in a webinar. And I can see many people writing. I've never tried this with more than 30 people, and now we seem to be more than 100.
We're 132.
Wow, great.
But that would not count. Yeah, I'm not sure there are 132 in the Google Docs document.
Yeah, so I've never tried that.
Oh, this is a test bed.
Such a large crowd.
Could you share your Google Docs document then, David, for those who are in Connect?
I'm not sharing my screen.
No, it's just the screen. Yes, you're sharing a screen share, but not the right the right picture of it.
Not the right picture of it. Oh, I'm sorry. This was the wrong screen. I'm so sorry. What happened? So I have to share the right screen. Sorry for that. Sorry for that. I have 3 screens. So, but now you can see what's going on here. So maybe, I don't know, 100 people are enough for Google Docs. So, but you see how people are editing the document, and they are drawing. So I hope it's not too small, because this is quite a high resolution screen. Yeah, the next I wanted to show is another tool, somehow a little bit similar. This tool is called Padlet, and it allows to build whiteboards very fast. It does not require any registration, just clicking on build a wall, and we get a link, and I will give you the link. And now with a double click in here, you can again gather ideas maybe on how to use this tool in webinars or in the classroom. Yeah, you can even upload files or pictures. You can shoot a picture using your webcam. So this is me from another perspective. You can drag and drop all the entries. And I personally think that this is a nice way to extend a webinar.
Mm.
And yeah, any questions? Okay, great for brainstorming. How do I write something? You have to double click. Just double click.
But not inside Adobe Connect. It's on the web page that you might have been
it's
opened.
on the web page.
Just yeah. This would be a nice thing to have integrated in Adobe Connect, and there are some customized pods. Trouble with the customized pods coming to technical restrictions is that they wouldn't work on an iPad at the moment. But given that there aren't so many iPad users on this seminar, it would have been an option.
Okay, the last tool to extend a webinar is Facebook. But very simple. I will open a Facebook group. This can serve as a way to network, among the participants. So I'm sorry, this is in German, but I open the group, and the group will be how should I call it? Webinar.
Effective
webinar.
And you can sign up straight away for it.
Yes, just a second. I have to add one person at least. The group will be closed. No, I will open it completely. We have an open session, and so I have to look for a nice icon. So the computer will do fine. And now the group is ready.
We've got a mobile causing interference. If was it David?
Mobile phone might be mine.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've given you the link. You can click there, and please enter the group. And I see it's very fast. It is so fast. So many messages.
So this would be a nice place to answer all tech questions that we haven't answered during the session.
Yeah, this is our community. This is how we're going to continue. So please all join and get other people to join, and let's keep going. We can share tips and ideas and who's doing what webinars. Let's share information.
Yeah.
Maybe David, we can talk about sharing administrative duties for this, because people have to be accepted and approved.
No, but it's simple. I can approve all with one click. Then
again, you have to administrate to a certain extent, because you always later on get some very strange people in these groups.
But at least we've got 40 plus
wonderful
participants in this group.
We need to be rounding off as well now, David, actually, and heading to the end of our scheduled session. But as you can see, things can continue and will.
Yeah.
So maybe we can return to... Do we return to the chat, Marcus, as we head towards the end of the recorded session? Anything that Torhild or Marcus was thinking of from this, or that you've noticed from the chat?
Actually, I wasn't looking too much at the chat, because I was looking at David's presentation, and I think it was a really nice way of extending it. The thing that would be in Connect to extend the webinar would be, of course, the last layout that we've already arranged for, that we to continue the chat afterwards for those of you who won't be able to make it on Facebook and just keep on chatting a bit further here.
I just wonder, what was the link between the webinar and Facebook, David?
The link between the webinar and Facebook, I just posted the link into the chat, and the idea of Facebook is to stay connected somehow. Yeah, the webinar will finish in about 5 minutes, and yeah.
Right.
For continuous discussion. Continuous discussion.
And
exchange and whatever.
we'll have to remember we'll post the recording link in the group as well as
sure.
we'll send a link to the recording to all the registered participants, and you can then spread it as much as you like.
Mm-hmm.
So, some closing words of wisdom, possibly. Could we just have a quick round the Torhild, anything you'd like to add before we've got some questions for you to answer on the right here, a few polls about your views and so on, and what aspect of today's topic would you like to follow up in another webinar, and so what could we continue to investigate? But Torhild, any final comments?
I got the impression that so many things happen very fast, so I will need to go through the recordings and see what has been discussed. So I'm just very especially impressed of the interactivity you showed us, David. I learned a lot. Thank you all.
Marcus?
Yeah, I think there's enormous contributions in the chat that really are worthwhile looking through in the recording. So I'm looking really forward to the recording to gather all the comments and suggestions, and I would like to take the chat to our OER homepage afterwards, then to spread all the good ideas.
David?
Yeah, I liked very much our session. It was really fun, and with so many participants, and I would like to mention the ongoing conference about climate-friendly climate research, which will continue right now. So this is the website of the conference, so you can get more information about it there, and if you like, you're welcome to enter another online room right now, because in a couple of minutes we are going to start a session about online conferencing again, but later on we are going to explore different web conference systems, and in about 2 hours we are going to have a session in Second Life, and I think this will really be interesting and challenging, and everybody's invited to join.
Okay, just checking everywhere. Of course, I mean, as we said from the beginning, I mean, this is a forum, some ideas and so on. We can all think of things that we didn't mention, that we should have maybe mentioned, that we could have mentioned, but we try that later as well. And people were asking about the next webinar, and in this series from OER Sweden, we haven't got a next webinar lined up yet, because it's soon Christmas and Santa Claus and everything else. So we're taking a little break on that. But Torhild, there's another webinar coming up. Were you going to mention from NVL?
Yeah.
Have you got the link that you could put in the chat?
No, I am sorry, I haven't any link
okay.
yet.
Okay, maybe.
But there is. It's in December. I think it's 12th of December, and we will send out the announcement.
Yeah, if you've got any interesting webinars, put them in the Facebook group. Let's keep the Facebook group going. Recommend it to other people, and let's get a proper forum going there about good practice and sharing ideas, and also giving each other ideas about webinars that are happening near you or that you're organizing. You're welcome to contact us, any of us, if you want some more tips and so on. But I think we're going to close the recording, say goodbye officially, and then we will move to the green room, where we will continue chatting off the record. And whether you want to be there or Facebook or Second Life or wherever you like, it's up to you. But for now, thanks very much. It's been fun. I have to go back and read all this because there's tons of stuff there. Any beer in the green room, says Stefan. Sorry, but there are no celebrities apart from all you. I mean, but it's like in the Eurovision Song Contest. We'll have we can chat in more relaxed form.
Yeah.
And there'll be nobody filming it for live sending.
So now
Anyway.
recording stops now.
Okay. Now we can relax and
Yeah.
Bye bye.